news. America's basements are now the hottest real estate market in the country, with over 4 million millennials calling them home. But they're not staying because they love mom's cooking or the bedtime stories. They're waiting for interest rates to drop. Here's why that wait-and-see strategy could cost you big time.
Hey everyone, in today's episode of Keyed Up, we're going to go over the perfect stat that you're going to want to make sure you take a note of if you're considering buying a home in today's market. This is a crazy time to buy right now, and we understand that you're up against a lot, but we don't want to sit inside the basement any longer. We want to get going, and here's a perfect stat to get you off the couch.
Yeah, so today we're going to kind of cover 3 key points in why you need to get out of the basement. So first talking point, right, is why waiting could cost you more. And that's a big thing, right? A staggering, shocking statistic came out last week stating that 4 million millennials are living in their parents' basement right now, waiting for rates to drop.
4 million.
And the average income of these millennials is $90,000 a year. So they're stacking cash, living in mom's basement, waiting for interest rates to drop, and then they're going to pounce.
They're playing it safe, right? Right now, they're playing it safe.
Right? But why can that cost you more, right? So one of the things that we know is that home prices historically trend up even when interest rates are higher.
Sure. Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And so what does that mean? What does that mean, Justin?
It means we have this thing called appreciation, that year over year, homes are going to continue to rise. Sometimes it's 3%, sometimes it's 5%, but we know that generally speaking, on the long term, they're going to continue to rise. And so appreciation factors in, and then little by little, competition factors in too. And so that's what we're going to talk about, is like this wave of 4 million millennials that are sitting there waiting for those rates to drop. That's a wave that's going to enter this market that's going to be a total market disruption. And that's where we're going to see those prices boom, because competition, when you get multiple offers on situations, on properties where multiple buyers are interested in the same property, this house is at $400,000. It's going to sell for $430,000 or $440,000. Right now, if you bought right now, there's a likelihood it's going to sell right around the $400,000 that it's priced at. You're not going to have that same intense wave of competition to fight against. So pricing is pretty predictable right now. But if we have that wave come, the pricing becomes pretty unpredictable and pretty unstable. It's going to be crazy.
Right. So I looked up some statistics yesterday, and the most recent data in Kansas City shows that home prices are up 8.2% year over year, between July 2024 and July 2025. 8.2%. So let's kind of look at that math, right? Yeah. And so just like you said, if, in 2024, if you were thinking about, buying, but you did, you may have paid $360,000 for your house.
Sure.
And an interest rate at that time would have been about 6.65 for a 30-year fixed rate, 10% down, conventional financing,
it's
right?
About $2,100 a month.
Yeah, $2,100 a month, right?
Yep.
And so this year, by waiting a year, waiting for rates to drop,
everyone's waiting.
They did not, by the way,
right, they
much.
did not. They're about the same.
As of yesterday, 6.5% for a 30-year fixed rate, conventional, 10% down. But the price of the home this year, that $360,000 is now a $400,000 home.
Yeah.
And so your payment is now, just under $2,300 a month.
Right.
So now,
in 2026, it might go up another $30,000 to $40,000.
Right.
If we do the same time next year with the average of interest rates being the same.
Right.
Now we're going up even more on the mortgage price.
Absolutely. Yeah. So now your affordability is potentially impacted, because now that house is going to cost you $200 more a month,
or $400, but if we keep waiting.
Sure.
$350 if we keep waiting.
Right. So that is, one of the things that I tell my potential buyers is that you can always refinance your rate, but you cannot go back and change the price that you paid for your house.
Right. It's the whole get the asset thing first. If the budget makes sense, get the asset, and then let the asset start Let the money make money for you.
Right.
Just like in any other investment. Put the money in and let that make money for you. If we continue to wait, try to time the market, which we'll talk about in a little bit, it always becomes this waiting game. It's never the perfect time. So get the asset and then let the money start making money for itself.
Right.
And also we want to be smart. We don't want to have our buyers enter into something that's unsavory or unresponsible, irresponsible for their particular financial situation. But we also know, we've seen it so many times in our own experiences as realtors helping folks. The people that wait go, I should have done this last year.
I know.
I should have done this 2 years ago when you said to do it 2 years ago.
I know.
Right?
Have you had those conversations?
Yeah.
I had a conversation with someone just recently. That started looking with me 2 years ago.
Yep.
And we had a conversation last July, as a matter of fact, and they had regret over not buying in 2023, but then put the brakes on, because they were a little,
nervous.
Some people just have commitment problems.
Or they read the headlines and they get scared.
Exactly.
I get it. We all have those financial concerns. Inflation is high. The cost of living is higher. It's hard to predict what's going to happen. But what we know right now is we know our income right now.
Yeah.
We know our credit scores right now. We can get an idea of the pricing market, of the housing market right now. If you talk to one of us, right, we can talk to our clients. And that's the thing is what makes sense right now.
Yeah.
Let's stop trying to predict the future. None of us have a crystal ball that works very well. We can kind of anticipate, we can forecast, but no one really knows what's going to happen. What we do know is right now, and what we can give is our clients some testimony about these conversations we've had. We also have the other side of that coin, which is people who go, you know what? You're right. I need to get that asset right now. And then this was last year. We had people that bought when we said, now's a good time to buy. And they go, thank you so much for helping me buy last year. I'm so glad I did not wait.
Well, and that's the other thing is you brought up a good point is, the forecast numbers. If we go back even 2 years ago and start looking at what the forecasters were projecting things were going to look like, none of them were right.
We're supposed to have 3 rate cuts already this year. We haven't had one. Exactly.
So that's where, we're going to get to some other good statistics here in a second as well, as far as talking about why waiting could cost you more.
Right.
And, it's one of those things that have that conversation with that trusted, real estate professional that because this is the largest asset that you will likely buy in your life. Sure. And so let's make sure that works well for what you intend, your long-term goals and what works well for your family. I think
sometimes we end up, we would talk to our clients so much, or we talk to the platform so much that sometimes it comes off as cliche or pitchy or salesy. And we really don't want it to be that way. What we're trying to do is we want to broadcast the communication that we're in the trenches with every day, looking at the numbers, looking at this stuff, but then also bring in a humanity and a reality to it. And it's like, we can help you through this if you help us help you, help us help you. Right.
Yes.
And that's just like getting out of our own way sometimes, letting someone coach you through. Let's look at your finances. Let's look at your reason why. What's the pain point as to why you're even considering this idea of home ownership or moving? And then let's see if it makes sense. If it doesn't, okay, fine. Sometimes it doesn't, right? We'll create a long-term plan.
Sure.
Maybe next year is the right year, but maybe it's not. Maybe we're just waiting because we're scared. The fear of the unknown is what gets us locked down.
Right.
And so let's remove that veil and let's get into it a bit and let's find out, do these stats make sense to you? Are you one of those folks that's hanging out, waiting for the things to change? It might not change, What changes is the price is going to continue to go up. It's going to cost. And that's what we're trying to avoid.
And that's what, the data all points in that direction. Yeah. So, and those numbers don't lie. No. Those are things, data points that we can look at. Yeah. And we know that is fact. We know that is, how things project to look, going forward with pricing. Yeah. And pricing has steadily increased in the Kansas City market since 2012.
Yeah.
So
over and over again.
We're not going, And so, some years have been single digits, some years have been double digits, but the fact remains that home prices continue to increase and home ownership is likely to be your safest investment.
It was 8.2 last year.
8.2.
So a lot of other investments that I invest in, if I got 8.2 in a lot of my investments, I'm feeling pretty good about that investment. I'm okay at 6. I love double digits, but 8.2 feels pretty good on the long term. And so if we look at this big asset like a Titanic, it's the Titanic of investing. It's just going to go slow and steady year over year for 20, 30 years for the most part that we can predict, right? We're seeing that data. in reverse and then forecasting. We can see that and go, you know what? I think that not only does it make sense for my life, I can make sense of the finances, but there's an investment vehicle here too.
Yeah.
So I think that let's get to point number 2.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're talking about these prices and what this means for our finances and trying to predict the future and talking about what's the rates going to do, what they're not going to do, but what's happening in our market as far as competition goes.
Right.
How does that look for the real life person that says, okay, you're right. I think I want to do this right now. What does that benefit if I do this right now?
Yeah. And I mean, right now, when we think about what our market looks like today, we have a lot of opportunity, a lot of options, and buyers have choice. And so that's a really big thing,
It's
right?
huge.
When we think about that, 2 years ago, we had about 5,000 homes available for sale in the Kansas City area. Today, we have about 8,200 homes available for sale on the market. So buyers have choices. Days on market have gone up. We were looking at about 30 days a couple years ago, and now we're at 35. So you might have time to actually sleep on it, where you didn't in years prior.
And 5 days doesn't sound like a lot, but that's almost a whole business week difference.
Absolutely.
That is a business week, almost a whole week difference in person being able to go, before 2023, even before that, it was even crazier. You had like 24 hours to make a decision. But even then in 2023, you kind of felt like this pressure because of our recency bias in 2021. You felt like I had to make this decision right now.
Yeah. Right.
And so now we can tell our buyers, like, I can't promise you overnight it's not something's going to change, but I think you're okay to take a second thought, to take a second look with your lender, let's make sure we're on the same page. Do comps line up? What kind of negotiations can we prepare for repairs?
Comps were thrown out the window in 2023. Because you were in multiple offer situations, it didn't matter what the comp said. Right. It was what the market was driving. And so if the market was driving and saying that we're going to be paying 10, 20, 30,000 over list price, that is what dictated, the market dictated that.
That's how you
comps didn't dictate that. Right. And so that's where, people were paying well over list price still then, where today the average is 98% of list price.
Instead of 101, wasn't it last year? 2 years ago, 2023.
And so buyers in today's market have more options. They have, choice as far as what they can purchase. They're not, looking at 1 or 2, they might be able to look at 7 homes and make a decision on that. They're also able to maybe negotiate in price. Maybe they don't have to pay list price. Maybe they don't have to go over. Maybe they're not in a multiple offer situation. So they're able to have a stronger negotiating power when it goes into making their offer. They're getting seller paid closing costs. That's a big one. Right? Yeah, that's been a huge especially one. As a first time home buyer, sometimes you need to save some of that cash. And so if you can get a seller to pay a big chunk of your closing costs, that keeps like $6,000 in your pocket, maybe more. And so that's a huge advantage to being a buyer in the market right now. The other thing are inspections.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I can't tell you how many buyers, were up against, not necessarily my buyers, but, that were waiving inspections completely because they were so desperate to get into a home.
There were so few options.
And you know where they're at right now? In regret of buying that home and ready to offload that asset, but they're not, the market's not really, ready for them to do that maybe yet. Yeah.
And as a listing agent, we list houses, we buy houses with our clients. And so it's the other side of the coin. We're preparing our sellers for this idea.
Absolutely.
Right. So that's kind of like the market tidbit for me is that while we help buyers, we're talking about these millennials sitting on their, in their basements, saving cash. From a seller's point of view, we go, hey, you're going to have to be prepared we can't do the same pricing strategy we did a couple of years ago. We're going to have to kind of come in at a fair price.
Right.
We want it to go kind of fast. We're going to have to maybe knock it down a little bit. Be prepared for inspections. Be prepared for negotiations. Be prepared to pay their seller paid closing costs. What's that mean? So we can kind of look at both sides of the coin. In particular, we can give our buyers that particular note because we work with listings too. And we go, what's the seller thinking? What's the seller prepared for? And so you're right. I mean, I can't tell you the number of wins we've had with our buyers recently where we go, man, we got our closing costs paid for by the seller at list price. So that means a net negative for the seller, and we negotiated repairs.
Right.
And we did it week and a half on the market, 2 weeks on the market. You know what I mean? These houses were hanging out a little bit, and they might have had an offer or two we had to negotiate with or compete with, but it wasn't like we had 10 offers to compete with. So if someone's watching this right now, they still think this 2021 thing is happening and pricing is happening and all these things. It's been a pretty good, I think, fair and neutral grounds for buyers and sellers to kind of cooperate and win. Sellers are getting still good value. And a seller's going to have to be ready to put that house, kind of get it ready.
Absolutely.
But then the buyer can come in and go, yeah, but I still need you to fix that toilet. Yep. I still need you to give me some credit for carpet, or pay my closing costs, one of the two, so it's a very fair market right now. So I love the idea that we can come in and get less competition for now. Because again, if those rates change, that wave happens and a lot of this stuff changes.
Sure, absolutely. And that's one of the things, again, kind of communicating that to the public and letting them know that, again, another reason smart money is buying now. They are not waiting because when those 4,000 or 4 million millennials decide to come out of the basement, right? It's going to take a little bit of time because we are sitting with, a fair amount of
there's
inventory.
There's going to be absorption that happens.
About 2.5 months of inventory in the Kansas City market right now. Mm-hmm. And that's going to take some time. But once that happens, it is going to be, it won't take long for it to become that market that was 2021. Mm-hmm. And if you were a buyer in that time, I know I personally am not looking forward to reliving that era.
It's a crazy time.
But it's one of those things that if you can get ahead of that, you're going to get a home at a much better price. You're going to be able to negotiate, potentially saving some money on costs, repairs and things like that. That will not be the case once that market shifts.
Yeah, and right now you can do it without this sense of urgency that you're going to miss out.
Right.
Or that you're going to be left empty-handed at the end of the day. We've got options right now.
Yeah.
Let's explore those options on all those fronts, right? Finances and opportunity. And I like that you said opportunity because I think that's what we're really talking about here. Now is the opportunity time.
Yes.
Later, we lose a little bit of that leverage when it comes to the opportunity. It'll still be there. We just have to it's a different game plan if that happens than it is right now. And the other thing we have to talk about is we can't perfectly time the market, right? Perfectly timing the market is like blindfolding, is like the pin the tail on a donkey, right?
Absolutely.
It's really difficult to do that especially without a coach. If people are just waiting on the sidelines, reading the headlines, not talking to a professional, and they're just letting the headlines, letting social media dictate their paces, that's a pretty tough time to then also time the market.
Right.
Because that's so emotional and it's so reactive to what we're blindsided with on all the things, all the media stuff.
Yeah.
So how do we counsel our clients about timing the market?
Really having that, I'm big and I know you are as well, as sitting down and having that initial consultation and really honing in on what their goals are. Mm-hmm. Why do they want to buy?
Right.
People have various reasons as to why they want to enter home ownership or maybe move up in their next home,
sure.
Their second or third home, right? And there's tons of life changes. We all experience them. Maybe we have gotten married, right. Or maybe our family is growing. Maybe
they're tired of living in the basement.
Maybe, right. Maybe their kids have all grown, gone, and are out of the house, and they need to downsize.
True. That happens a lot.
And so, what are their goals? What do they want to? What would they need to get out of that home purchase? And so, really. Identifying that and then seeing if the timing makes sense.
Sure.
Reaching out to your lender and looking at your assets and what it would take to buy a house right now. Yeah. Many people don't even know if they are a current homeowner, what equity they may have in their home. And so doing that home equity analysis for our clients and letting them know, do you realize that the home you bought in 2015 at $180,000 is now worth, $3.25 or more?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And some of them aren't even aware of that.
Right.
You're sitting with $150,000 in equity right now. Let's do something.
That's a lot of leverage for the next place.
That's a lot of leverage for the next place.
Yeah.
And when you think about, where, what that all looks like. And so really honing in, on that. And if you're a first time home buyer, Here's an interesting, do you know what the average, now, if you're living in your mom's basement, maybe you're not paying this rent.
Right.
But do you know that the average rent in the Kansas City area right now is $2,200 a month? That's $2,200 a month.
It's a pretty beautiful house, and it's a decent sized house here in Kansas City for that mortgage.
If you are, and let's just, because I'm an easy math gal,
sure.
Because so if we're paying $2,000 a month, how much is that a year? 24,000.
Yeah.
Okay, times 3. Let's just do it times 3, right? You're $75,000 you've paid to your landlord gone. Poof, gone. If you've taken that and you've invested that into, a home, think of what that equity over 3 years. We just talked about a number where if someone would have bought last year, they would have already had $50,000 in equity.
Right.
So let's times that in 3, and that's kind of a low, they're talking over $100,000 that their net worth, their wealth portfolio has grown.
And that's a missed opportunity.
A missed opportunity.
Yeah, that's a missed opportunity.
And home ownership isn't for everyone.
It's not.
So I'm not
There's value in renting and having the low maintenance and the commitment-free living and that stuff. So there's a conversation there, but
absolutely,
we have to be okay with that while knowing that the investment opportunity was missed. And that's justifiable to some, but for most, they go, oh, shoot, I need to jump on this train now then, because I don't want to let another 3 years or another 2 years go by without taking advantage of this opportunity, especially when we can make sense of that timing. If there's a way to time the market, which there's not, but if this is a good way to do it, it's like, let's talk so we can get the process started and find out if they're ready or not.
Right.
Is the why big enough? And sometimes that why is like this glorious rainbows, butterflies, why I want to be a homeowner and all these things. Sometimes it's just pain. Like they're painful where they are right now. What's the pain point and why they are where they are and they got to get out of there? Well, what is that thing?
And there's different types of homes.
Sure.
Right. And so maybe someone doesn't, maybe they're not into mowing the grass.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not into doing a lot of.
I got a townhome for sale right now.
Right. And so there's options out there that have, maybe they want to be in a condo.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of options out there all over the Kansas City area.
Sure.
So kind of talking about that. But one of the things and going back to, you can't perfectly time the market. And I really like this quote is that, real estate wealth is built with time in the market, not timing the market.
Right. That's so good.
And so that's one of the things that, some people like to gamble, right? Some people, but at the end of the day, what are you really winning? So if you're thinking about buying, let's have a conversation about that.
So if you're one of those millennials and you're hearing this and something starts to click off that I need to go ahead and have a conversation with a realtor. If you're in Jennifer's sphere, contact her. If you're in mine, if you like us, ask us questions. We're happy to connect you, with either one of our lenders. We both have great resources, but that's where we start. It's like, let's just have a conversation. There's no commitment to a conversation. It's usually a 10 or 15 minute with us before we go, okay, let's see if you're ready for this financially. And if you are, great, we can move forward. But what we're really advocating for right now is this wave that could happen if the interest rates, drop at some point. Let's get ahead of that.
Yep.
Right. And let's also understand that the better prepared we are now, the longer runway we have now, the less stressful that situation is. If we do this in a vacuum because interest rates drop and people are like, oh, now I need your help, we're going to have to fly by the seat of our pants. And that's a stressful situation for everyone involved.
Absolutely.
Let's avoid that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Get in now while competition is low, and then we can make a plan to refinance later.
Get the asset first.
Absolutely.
Change the price later.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, reach out to one of us. We're Jennifer. I'm Justin. We're keyed up and we're on YouTube. Like and subscribe, for more cool content that we've got. We've got situations like this. We're going to have some funny stuff. We're going to have some features about the market in Kansas City coming up. So stay tuned and thanks for tuning in and feel free to comment and like down below.
That's right. Thank you.